Okay, so let's see where we're up to here. We're up to V'ha'inyan. So we were discussing over here the two levels in Midos. We were discussing that in Midos there is the Midos themselves, and then there is Midos that come from the Moichin. Just like we spoke about when we talk about the Moichin, about Bina we talked about. We talked about Bina, the two levels. That's why we have Chamishim and Chamishim. So we talked about that had Meir Shorim. So we talked about that in Moichin itself, in Bina itself, there is the two levels and the various different ways, either Milmaila Lamata, Milmata Lamaila, the level of Kod, the level of Lecha, or the level of Moichin, which is Moichin Be'etzem, and then Moichin, the Bina Be'etzem, and then Hamshachas Ha Moichin. The Rebbe talks about the same thing is in Midos. In Midos, we have two Midos. We have Midos that are Nimshach from the Seichel, and then we have Midos that are Midos Be'etzem. And the Rebbe is going to explain now this idea. The Rebbe is going to explain, while we're saying over here that the Midos are Nimshach from the Seichel, but there is two Midos. There is Midos Be'etzem, and then there is Midos that as their Nimshach from the Seichel. And the Rebbe is going to talk about both of these Madregas. Let's see, the Rebbe will explain this. The Shoyresh Hamidos hu be'etzem hanefesh l'maylo mishoyresh hasechel. The root of Midos, the emotions, is rooted in the essence of the nefesh, which is higher than the root of seichel. Notwithstanding that we're saying that seichel is the one that brings the Midos into revelation by the person is through his reflection. He brings the Midas into reality, but still they have a source, these Midas that the Seichel pushes into or creates or moilid them, creates them. They have a root in the neshama which is even higher than the root of the Seichel. Elo shehamshachosam hu alidei haseichel. It is only that the way they are nimshach, they come from Seichel. And that's why Seichel brings them about, their nimshach, but their essence, the source, is higher than Seichel. So, Ushnei Inyonim Elu. And these two aspects about Midos, that first of all we're saying Sheshoyresh HaMidos Hu L'maylo Meshoyresh HaSeichel, that the root of Midos comes higher than the root of Seichel. That's number one. And also B'sham Shochas HaMidos Hu Al Yidei HaSeichel. And number two, that how do Midos extend? How do they are drawn down? They come through Seichel. Hein v'chol hamidos. That applies to all the midos. Whether they're midos that are midos be'etzem, of the etzem midos, or they're the midos that come from the Seichel. Whether they're noilad from the Seichel, or they're midos be'etzem. Now the Rebbe is going to explain this. While these are called midos be'etzem, they still come through Seichel. And on the other hand, the midos that are born, that are noiled from this Seichel, they have a root which is higher than Seichel. So both of these midos that we're discussing, whether they're midos that are created from Seichel, or their natural midos, both of them, how do they extend? They still come out through midos. The Rebbe is going to explain this behind it. That is, shagam midos hasichlios, even also the intellectual midos. Intellectual midos means those midos that comes as a result of his seichel, his bina, his reflection brought about these midos. Also, those midos, shorshim hu be'etzem hanefesh, they're rooted in the essence of the soul. Well, you might say, well, no, they're not rooted in the essence because they are rooted in the seichel. Seichel is the one that is moiled them. He says, no, the real root is be'etzem hanefesh. Yes, seichel is moiled them. That means that the seichel brings them into being, but it doesn't mean that they're rooted in seichel. Their root is in the higher place than the seichel. Seichel is just that pushes them and brings them out. Shalochein. That's why. Gam hamidos hanilodim haseichel. Even those midos that are born, came about through the intellect, after sheyiyu b'toikev gadol, it is possible that they will be with a full great force, harbe yoser mehaseichel ha'olidum, a much greater than the seichel that gave birth to them, that created them. Meaning, how does it happen that the seichel is not so forceful, but the seichel that creates that midah becomes more forceful than the seichel? Why is that? Because the truth is the midah comes from its own source, from a place which is higher than the intellect, and that's why he's able to be stronger even than the seichel. So because the seichel is not higher than the midas. The midas come from a higher place. The seichel only revealed them. So that means that the seichel that are created from the midas that are created from the seichel, they have a source which is higher, and that's why they can be stronger because their root is even higher than the seichel. This is with regards to the midos that are born out of the seichel, the midos sichlos. Yeah. Sorry, it dropped for a minute. My Wi-Fi of my phone, I use my hotspot, it dropped it. All right, Bal derech zeh, and the similar is li'idoch, is on the other hand. Shegam midos hativiyos sheba'odom, also those natural midos that are by the person. So, l'chaira, over there you can say that you can see that they're connected to the etzem hanefesh, because they are they're not dependent on the seichel, because they are natural midas. They're not born out of the intellect. They didn't come about through meditation. So maybe you might think that therefore these midas are not connected to the seichel. But it says no. On the other hand, just like we're saying that the midas hasichlios that are created from seichel are rooted in higher than seichel. Similarly, the midas hativios, even though they're rooted in higher than seichel, they come about through seichel, through the intellect. Also the natural midas that by the person they are aroused, they also come through the intellect. You're going to say, what does it have to do to the seichel? They're natural midas. Why are we saying they're not midos sichlios, they're essence midos. So it says, no, they too, how are they aroused the natural midos? It's all through seichel. As it's known, the proof for this, the Pasuk says that he told them, Al yerach levavchem al tiro. Your heart should not be faint. Don't be afraid. So he's telling them, they shouldn't, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them they shouldn't be afraid. So the question is, what does it mean? Actually, this is in Pasuk Shoftim. So he says to them, that they shouldn't be afraid. Well, what does it mean that they should not be afraid? How could you tell a person not to be afraid? Fear in a war is a natural matter. How does it apply? How could he command them, don't be afraid? Well, he's afraid, that's in his heart. But it says no, even the natural midas have a connection to your seichel. And the explanation is the kivon sheis oiridus midas ativius. Since the awakening, the arousal of the natural midas, why they are seichel is through seichel. Lochein, therefore, when he puts his mind and his thought in this matter, his heart will not become faint and he is not going to be afraid at all. The Rambam actually writes that a person who thinks during a war, he starts to think that what? He frightens himself. He violates a loisas. The Pasuk says your heart should not become faint. Do not be afraid. So what does it mean? Because what the gam yira tivis miseres upayeles kshemachashev umaharba. For also the natural fear, it is aroused, it's awakened, and it works, it impacts when you think and you reflect on it. So that means, this tells us that even midos, tviyos, are also connected through the seichel. The seichel has to think about them and recontemplate them, and that's when he becomes afraid. So that means that natural midos are also connected to seichel, and therefore this goes both ways, that even the natural midos are connected to seichel, and even the midos sichlios, the intellectual midos that come in that, is also connected to higher than seichel. Why is that even the natural midos, it would seem that the natural midos, since they are natural, so they should be by their shoyrish. We said before, the shoyrish of midos is higher than the shoyrish of tikkun, of seichel. So, since they have a higher shoyrish, so why can't the midos, the way they're in their natural state, not those midas that were born from the seichel, but those midas that you have the etzem, why can't they just be there without having the seichel impact them? And the Rebbe explains, because even the natural midas of the person, of the nefesh elikis, they come from the level of tikkun. In tikkun, everything is according to the seichel, even the midas of tikkun. By toihu, the nefesh habahamis root, over there is midas by themselves. But in the tikkun, so therefore every part of the nefesh elikis, whether even the nefesh had, even the tivis dike midos, they too come from a source, from tikkun, which the midas tvs are dependent on the seichel, and that's why even the midas tvs changed by the seichel. Batam lozeh, let's look inside. Batam lozeh. So what's the reason for this? That shagam his oiridis midas hativiyos who davke al yidei seichel, that even the arousal of the natural midas is specifically through the seichel is who kishoyre sha'odam hu betichon, because the root of man, all of Adam, is in the level of tikkun. In Atzilus, it's tikkun over there. The shoyresh habal chai, the root of the living, hu betoyu, is in toyu. The shoyresh ha'odam hu betikkun, the root of man is in tikkun. Uba olam hatikun. So in the world of tikkun, ha'ikir hu ha'moichin. The main thing is moichin over there. The gam hamidos the tikkun. Also the midos in tikkun hemapi hamoichin. They are by the moichin. In tikkun, everything is by moichin, and the shoyresh of Adam is in tikkun, and therefore even the midos tivios, they too go up Yasech. Does this mean that the midos of tikkun are lower than seichel? No. The hagam shegam betikun shoyresh hamidos ulemailo mishoyresh hamoichin. Even in tikkun, in toyu, we're going to say over there you can see that the midos is higher than moichin, but in tikkun, over there we said everything is according to moichin. So it says no, that